Hi, I'm Kurt Mitchell, and welcome to the Van Halen Guitar Method. Before we get started talking about Eddie and all of his equipment and all the stuff we're going to cover, I want to tune up and get that out of the way. I'm tuned to half a step down. Most of the stuff that he's done throughout the career of Van Halen is half a step down, okay? So if you want to tune to your tuner, tune your whole guitar half a step down, that's going to probably be easier than what we're about to do. What I'm going to do is give you an A or a fifth string, open fifth string. I want you to tune your guitar to my A. I'll give you enough of it so that you can come back and keep checking it after you tune the rest of your guitar. Tune to my A, tune the rest of your guitar, come check it again, and we'll be in tune throughout the lesson, okay? Let's get started. I'll give you an A. Here we go. What we're going to do on this tape, we're not going to concentrate on songs so much as the technique that Eddie used to play, that he uses in his approach to his playing. We're going to talk about the gear, starting with the very first record and on through For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. We'll talk about the stomp boxes and his rack effects and all this other stuff. Let's begin with the guitars. Back in 77, 78, which is, I mean, quite a while ago, 12, 13 years ago, what he was doing was he was playing a Les Paul for a fat sound, but he didn't like the way it felt, right? So he started playing a Strat, but nobody liked the thin sound of the Strat. So he took the humbucking pickup out of the Les Paul, put it in a Stratocaster, and it's become the day's standard rock guitar. And basically this is what you have. He had a Strat-style guitar with one pickup in it, one volume knob, and that's it. He had a tremolo that wasn't a Floyd Rose clamp. It was an ordinary Strat bar, and he used to, I believe he used to oil the nut so that the strings would slip back and forth and the guitar wouldn't go out of tune, enabling him to use that bar, because once you play a Strat, if you've ever played a clamped guitar and then played a non-clamped guitar, you can understand what I'm saying. As soon as you touch the bar on a Strat without a clamp, it goes out of tune. The fact that the Floyd Rose clamp came out just afforded him more flexibility, because you can't knock one out of tune once you've got the strings stretched out. Let's talk about the pedals he used to use. He was using, on the first record now, and through like the first 2 or 3 records, he's using a pedal board that had a bunch of stomp boxes plugged up to it. He had a phase shifter, a MXR phase shifter, an MXR flanger. I've heard that he had a pedal EQ. He had 2 tape delays, 2 what they call echoplexes, and he had one Univox tape delay. So he had 3 delays, and he had little buttons that would turn them on and off in his signal. And that's about it. You know, they were duct taped to a piece of wood. People laugh. I remember the first article I read of them, people are laughing at him, you know, because he's got this duct tape pedal board on the floor. It looked like junk, and then of course he plugged in and it was over. But this is what I got dialed up right now is much like the first album sound. We'll run through some of the effects a bit. Oh, let's talk about the amp first. The amp that he was using back then, and it's gone through, he's used a Marshall head through most of his career. Until the last album, I believe, he's used a Marshall head. Now he's using either Soldanos or 5150s or a combination of the two. I'm not quite sure anymore what he's using, but I believe from the last article I read, he was using 5150s, his own amp, which is sort of a Soldano, with a resonance knob on it, what they call resonance. And anyways, but until then, he was playing an old Marshall head. I've got one that's very similar to it. I got a 69 Plexi sitting here. When they say Plexi, they're talking about the plastic on it, right? Let's take a look at it and I'll show it to you. This is the same type of Marshall head that Eddie was using back then, and I'm sure he still has. It's a 69 Super Lead, and Plexi. Plexi just simply means that there's a piece of plastic here. This gold stuff is plastic instead of anodized aluminum like the one on the top. They're collector's items now, and they have a unique sound to them. All the older amps have a unique sound to them in that they hand-wired the transformers, and all of them were different, and so every amp has its own characteristics. He had a guy named Jose modify his amps so that they were cascaded, so he could get some more gain out of them, and then he used a voltage regulator or a variac to run the voltage from 110, 120 is what you get out of the wall, up to like 140 or 50 volts for that first album, and had it modified so that the tubes would melt because the fuse wouldn't blow. So I mean, he was actually taking some chances with his amp. But anyways, let's get on with it and check out some sounds now, okay? Oh, by the way, I want to show you where we're miking the cabinet. This cabinet is simply for us to have Marshalls in the set. We have our cabinet in an ISO booth, and it is ripping loud. And so we have it sealed up, and I don't want to go in there and mess with that. But I want to use this cabinet to show you where I'm putting the mic. There's only one microphone on this sound. A lot of people mess with mics, and they throw them around the room, blah, 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 this and that. One microphone on old Celestion speakers. They make reissues of the old Celestions now, which sound like the old ones, which is a good thing because the new ones are a little bit too bitey. 70 watts are too bitey. 30 watt Celestions. Let me show you where we're putting the mic. Here's a speaker. We've circled it here for you. What we're doing is we're taking a Shure 57, SM57, Beta 57, which is with the standard for miking guitar amps. And we're moving it off center, not dead center, but off to the right a little bit. And sometimes people angle them so that they're at an angle. I usually just put it straight on and put it right up against the grill cloth so I can get as close to sound as I can. So basically this is the sound we got. Now I have some reverb. I have a reverb that has a delay on one side and a reverb on the other. On the first record there was a lot of reverb effects on the guitar, and it's what made it sound so huge and live. So in subsequent albums, he's backed away from that, and his sound's a little bit closer and a lot more studio sounding. It had a lot more. The first album had a lot more treble on it too. And so there's our basic sound. Now, what he used to do when he was playing solos, he would go to his phase shifter for like a treble boost. Well, what it actually started doing though is sweeping, and it would take the tone and modulate it very slowly. Take the little phase shifter and turn the knob all the way down so the speed goes as slow as it'll go. And it used to sound something like this. So you can see how the phase shifter played an integral part in the sounds that were gotten on the first album. And he was simply using it, I believe, to give himself a little bit of a treble boost for solos. Ended up being one of the coolest sounds you ever heard. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at examples. We'll go chronologically in order from the first album to the latest one that they've put out, which is for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. And we'll change the sounds and talk about the sounds, and we're going to talk about the riffs and his techniques right now, along with the sounds. So when I start changing sounds to meet the needs of the albums as they go by, I'll tell you what we're doing with them, okay? Let's look at example number 1. Well, I switched to a Les Paul because I want to show you the opening riff for Run with the Devil. It's sort of a trick he's using. It's not really a trick, it's just a sound. And all he's doing is, when I was expounding about the Stratocaster, he also played, I've read it both ways. It was either an Ibanez Destroyer or it was a Les Paul, and I've seen him in concert with a Les Paul before. So it could be either one, and as long as you have this bridge thing down here, you are able to do that. Cool sound, huh? But he used that guitar. You can tell when he's using that guitar. There's no vibrato arm in the whole tune. He uses it on You Really Got Me. It's got the switch thing on it. I don't know if he uses it anymore on the rest of the record. I just can't remember. But so he did use 2 different guitars, the one with the bar and one without. And I believe it was a Les Paul. I'm not sure. Anyways, let's move on to example 2. What we're doing there is we got on a Les Paul, there's a volume knob for each pickup. This one controls the neck pickup, and this one controls the bridge pickup. So you leave the bridge pickup knob on, so this pickup's on. You turn this pickup off. Then you have a pickup selector. And what happens is you cut it off. You end up cutting the sound, chopping the sound into pieces. I don't know that he did that anymore. I think that's the only time he ever did that on that first record. I mean, he got bored with things real fast and keeps trying to experiment. So as to not get stale. Let me put this guitar down. I'm going to pick my Strat back up, and I'll show you a couple of excerpts from Eruption that will give you some insight as to what he was doing way before anybody else really had a grip on it. Okay. Example 3, we're going to take a couple of pieces of eruption here and explore. Pretty much eruption is Van Halen wrapped up in a ball. He used almost everything that he knew on that one little piece of music. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you something that he did a lot that took me a long time to figure out because it sounds so wild. It just sounds like notes are going all over the place. What he does is he pulls off to open strings. He sort of string skips and pulls off to open strings. This is one example. This is going to combine the speed picking thing that he does and pull off to open strings, okay, and a trill at the end of it. It sounds like this. Slower. Let me show you one more thing off of, well, I'll show you a couple more things off this album because this one's full of good stuff. We'll talk about some harmonics and stuff in a second. This is what's known as right-handed hammer-ons. A lot of people call them tapping. It's not tapping. I'll show you some tapping in a second. Pretty much, Billy Gibbons had done this before, Eddie, with just this riff. Right? But nobody paid much attention to it. When Eddie came out and he fiddled with it, and all of a sudden he came up with this thing that he was doing, which is simply tapping like this with your fingers, holding 3 different notes. This is the very end of eruption. I'm going to show you how, with the pedal, to do the bar dive at the end. Okay, it's not a bar dive. It's a delay comes on after you hit the notes. Then you turn your guitar volume off, and the delay takes over the note. You grab the speed knob, how fast the delay goes, and you turn it down. Now, also involved in this is the fact that you have to have your phase shifter after your delay pedal. Okay, let's check out example number 4. Let's do it a little bit slower, and then we'll talk about the effect, okay? So the thing is with that delay, what makes it so cool, I mean, I swear I thought that was a bar for years and years and years. I thought he was doing that with a bar. My guitar wouldn't go down far enough, and I made all these adjustments to try to get my bar to do this stuff. And then when I really, really paid attention, found out it was a delay. Anyways, let's go on to some other examples. We'll go into some harmonics of like On Fire and stuff, and I'll show you some of the other tricks he's doing on this album. Then we're going to move on to the next album, change sounds correspondingly, and check out the cool things on it, and we're going to proceed in that method, okay? Let's go to example number 5. That's one example of his use of harmonics on this record. Let me show it to you a little bit slower, okay? Here's riff 6. One more time. Here's riff 7. One more time. Here's number 8. Once again. Here's riff number 9. He uses this in a couple of spots on this record. He uses this same riff in a couple of songs. Here's number 9. One more time. little pick slide, but not in the normal sense of the word. This is a little trick he does where he does a trill and then he slides his pick around. Cool sound. It's a great sound. Check it out. Here's one that involves some finger stretching. He's playing in two positions and just using a sort of a riff and running and going straight down the strings, which he did a lot of. He's very clever at figuring out ways to make cool sounds and do cool things, but doing them simply so that they're fast and they sound cool. This is number 11. This is a good one. Like, check this out. Slower. Number 12, I want to show you something that he did with this phase shifter that I always thought was some sort of mean, flanging, weird, bizarre thing. And all it is a little phase shifter and the delay pedal. The delay pedal's hooked up for a very, very fast slapback. Okay, let's check it out. It's number 12. Here's the last one from this record. We're going to move on and change our sound, start talking about some of the other things that he's done. This is number 13. Slower. On the second album, Van Halen 2, we're going to explore a couple riffs, and mainly the tone has changed considerably. This is where he got to put, it seems to me, this is where he got to put his 2 cents in on about what he liked as a sound. I've heard demos of Van Halen stuff with the double guitars and all kinds of stuff, and what he seemed to like was what he coined the phrase. He coined the phrase brown sound. Brown. He doesn't like a lot of treble on it. He likes it to be warm and mushy, kind of, but all at the same time tight. Back in this era, anyways, is like '79. And from this album on, he never got back to the first record's sound, ever. So this is the sound that I think he probably likes, because by then he was a star and he could pretty much tell him what he wanted to sound like. This album is played a lot differently. He's not as fast and fluid and slippery anymore. He's more Eddie, you know what I'm saying? That first album just seems to me like a lot of things came together to make that record different than all of the rest of them by a long, long shot. Let's check out the sound. We're going to come look at a little bit of the gear that we're using here so I can show you what's happened. Number one, the main thing that I've done right now is I've turned this amp up considerably louder, and now the power tubes are what are making the distortion, whereas in the last record, it was a buzzier tone. While the amp was up loud, the tone was buzzier. In order to get a power amp distortion to occur, you need to crank up the amplifier. So let's take a look at the levels. We'll take a look at, I got a couple other pieces of gear I've inserted in here, and we'll take a look at those. Let's do that now. Yeah, the treble here is cranked up to about 9 now, and the presence I backed off of so I could get a blend between the presence and the treble on Marshall's. Bass all the way up, middle all the way up. Distortion, this is modified, understand. On his head, volume 1 and 2 would have been the distortion, and he would have had another knob on the back to turn the overall volume up and down. So my distortion's up. This is going to be different from amp to amp. My distortion's up not quite so far anymore. I backed the distortion off too, and it's louder, way louder. This rack's got 4 pieces of gear in it. I'm using the bottom 3. The top one's a parametric EQ. The second one down is a noise gate compressor, and the bottom one is a reverb. Now, I don't want to go into a seminar on recording. I just want to tell you briefly what's up. I've inserted the parametric EQ between the microphone and the fader so that it's not in line with the microphone, and it gives you a lot more flexibility. And you're able to dial in the little things. See, every time you go into a studio, everything's always different. So every record they make, the mics are different, the rooms are different, the EQs are different. Everything is always different. So these sounds evolved and changed through throughout the years, and this little parametric EQ gives me the flexibility to be able to try to dial these sounds in for you. Let's take a look at one other piece of gear and we'll get on with the riffs on this album, okay? This piece of gear is called an Eventide harmonizer. This is the real cool model with all the updates and all that. What I'm really using it for on this is to give me a high quality chorusing effect, because when he put something on that he liked to call jape, I don't know, there's another term he coined, brown sound, jape. Jape is some effect on your guitar. When he started wanting to hear effects on his guitar, they started using digital delays to chorus them, which means they set the time off and then modulate it a little bit. And this thing does, on top of 1,000 other things, it does that real well. So I'm using that for the chorusing on this sound. And from now on, most of the time, he's got a chorus on his guitar. Okay? Let's get to the riffs. Here's riff number 14. What he's doing there is he's gently setting his, I do it with the palm of my hand, he does it with his thumb. You gently set your thumb or the palm of your hand on there, on the string, and slide it down. You're going to achieve a bunch of harmonics. You're going to get all of them on the way down. The thing is, you don't want to push too hard or you'll mute the string. So you want to get it, just touch it lightly. Let's do the riff a little slower, okay? Here's number 15. What's going to be involved here is we're going to use our volume to fade notes in, okay? Riff number 15. Once again. Riff number 16. One more time. $17. One more time. Here's number 18. One more time. The next thing Eddie brought to us is something that's called tapping. If you tap on the string 12 frets away from wherever you're fretting, you get a sound that sounds like this. That's tapping. Everybody calls the two-handed hammer on stuff. Everybody calls that tapping. That's not tapping. Those are right-handed hammer-ons. This is tapping. Let me give you a couple of examples of tapping on this second record. It's the first time any of us ever heard this, and it's a darn good thing, and we thank Eddie for it. Let's have it, shall we? Here's number 19. One more time. Here's number 20. One more time. On example 21, we've got a clean sound. I went to another amplifier, went into the clean channel. It's still a Marshall, 100-watt Marshall. I got a delay going into the amp, so the same delay I used for the dive bomb thing on the Eruption I'm still using. And then I've got some chorusing, some good chorusing being printed with the Eventide. Okay? And it's the delay is this long. This goes like this. It's number 21. On the third album, Women and Children First, there's a song on there called Cradle Will Rock. And I always thought to myself, my God, how is he getting that sound out of a guitar, man? It's unbelievable. And you'll notice we got a keyboard over here. I don't want to teach you how to play keyboards. I just want to show you something. Eddie is just a total innovator. The guy's always thinking. He's always trying something new. If it doesn't work, oh well. But he's always patching in stuff. And someone who said he knew him, he always had toggle switches in his pockets and stuff. He started playing keyboards on Women and Children First, and everybody that buried it. David Lee Roth didn't want him to play keyboards, I don't think. I don't think he ever did. Ever wanted him to play keyboards, which is stupid because Eddie plays them well and he writes good songs on them. And I believe they both, the Van Halen, started out playing piano. Let me show you this and you're going to see what I'm saying. I don't have the right thing. He had a Wurlitzer piano playing through his Marshalls on the Cradle Will Rock. Let me show you this. The next thing we're going to talk about is, well, we're going to move on from Women and Children First on to Fair Warning. I just wanted to lay that on you and know that way before 1984, Eddie was playing keyboards. Anyways, let's go to, I'm going to play you a little excerpt of some ridiculous hammering here. He started hitting harmonics on different frets, like you can hit harmonics, say, at the 12th fret. Well, he started tapping them. Because he's a maniac. He starts tapping them, and it starts to sound like this. Check this piece out. One of the other things that Eddie does infrequently, he doesn't do it a lot, is he'll detune. In other words, he takes his E string and tunes it down a step down to D. Comes out sounding like that. Big, huge, big sound. Then he'll step on his flanger. He periodically steps on his toys to give it this sweeping sound in just a piece of the song. It sounds something like this. Check this out. Here's number 26. This is a finger pluck thing. I want to show you a piece now where Eddie's taking a delay pedal, a volume knob, either a very heavy chorus or a little bit of a flange, because a flange is a very extreme effect and a chorus is usually a pretty subtle one. So I've got a very subtle flange going, and he might be using a real heavy chorus, but they're plugged straight into the amp. These aren't coming out of the board. So this is going to be hammered volume swells with some delay on it. The delay's about like that, okay? So here we go. Once again. Let's move the album 1984. On Diver Down in 1984, Diver Down wasn't a very successful record. They had a lot of copy tunes on it. 1984, on the other hand, they talked about for a whole year that Eddie was going to be playing keyboards on this record. So they hyped the heck out of this album. And unbeknownst to everybody, he'd been playing keyboards for like 3 or 4 years before that. But he always disguised it with a Marshall. Dancing in the Streets has a keyboard part on the left-hand side if you ever want to check it out. It's not a guitar. The one that's making all the weird noises is a keyboard through a Marshall. At least that's what it sounds like. It's not a guitar. Anyways, so this album, the Diver Down album, 1984, the guitar sounds got thinner in that he took some of the low end away and keeps backing the distortion off through some of these albums, and then, but finally by Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, the distortion gets cranked way back up, but they're not Marshalls anymore. So anyways, a lot of chorusing on these sounds now. I want to show you this riff where he sort of fades. He does this pull-off thing, mute thing, and then he fades into these harmonics. This is example 28. Let's check it out. One more time. Number 30. Once again. Here's number 31. Slower. I'm going to show you an example right now of this speed picking thing he does. I can't hold my hand the way he does when he does it. He turns his hand around like this and sort of picks up underneath it. And it's a really strange thing that I never bother. I mean, he does it. Why bother? You know what I'm saying? Because my picking hand's a different thing. But he picks real fast. Nevertheless, make it comfortable for yourself. And he picks real fast all the time. He does this on every record. He picks real fast and runs these lines up the neck. Check this one out. 32. One more time. Here's number 33. Here's number 34. Again. $35. Again. As we moved to 5150, he picked up a new toy, which was a Steinberger guitar. It has this thing called a trans trim on it, and it's cammed in such a way so as when you bend the bar down, you can bend it down and lock it in, and it will play in certain keys because the strings drop at a certain rate. And they were able to scientifically work it out to where you could lock it in place and play in other keys. So he really used this thing a lot. I don't have one right now, but what I can do for you is I can show you some of the things he was doing with the bar. He got very bar happy for a while here. His styles evolved into this sort of a loose type of a thing where he's using his bar all the time, playing as strangely as he can, it sounds like to me. Let's check a riff out here, okay? Let's look at this riff. Number 36. Again. For 37. Again. Again. Here's number 39. Once again. On this album, OU812, we're going to shift albums here. He progressed into the Steinberger thing, and it got very wet and muddy and strange sounding, and had this big stereo separation from something like the Eventide harmonizer we're using. And then on OU812, he sort of went back to like a Fair Warning sound, which was a very martially sound, and the Stratocaster and the whole bit with the humbucking pickup. And on the very next record, we're going to get to Unlawful. He completely changes everything, his guitar, his amps, the whole bit. It's a thoroughly different sound. Anyways, let's take an excerpt here. This is number 40. One more time. 42. One more time. $43. One more time. On Van Halen's latest album, as of the making of this tape, for Unlawful, he's got a completely different sound. I've heard a bunch of stories, people talk about him when I was down at a convention down in LA for the music industry, and they were Saldana was talking about how he stole their circuit for the 5150 and blah, 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 and on and on. What it sounds to me like is like a Saldano-style amp, okay, with the gain just jacked. He's got a ton of gain going. He switched guitars, he's making the music, he's doing the Music Man guitar thing now. Total different sound. It's very low-end heavy. And it's extremely buzzy and distorted. And he's taken a lot of the mids out. It's non-distinct. It's hard to put your finger on. I mean, it still sounds like Eddie because it's Eddie playing the guitar. But it's a much, much different sound. I'm using a distortion pedal to get this thing to run like this. Let me give you example number 44. One more time. Eddie's got a new trick on this album, or a new effect, and one that he's never used in all the albums that they've made, a wah-wah pedal. I mean, he's never at least recorded one that I know of. We got a wah-wah pedal here, and let me give you, this is example number 45, all right? Here's 46. Again. The way Eddie approaches his chording, let's talk about the way he approaches his chording and his songwriting. He's usually writing in a major mode, which makes everything seem kind of happy, especially after the first two records. Everything got very happy. They're just happy guys. How could you not be? His chords usually center around major, this inversion of, the first inversion of major chords, and these little bar chords, and then he like puts his
And then he uses these. He's written a lot of hit songs with that kind of stuff, you know? All the time. Eddie's just using those all the time. And he's always inventive with his chords. But most of the time, he's in a major mode, as opposed to minor, which most rock music is in. His soloing is comprised of blues riffs, entirely of blues riffs, except for the hammer-ons, which he was the first to put on record with some logic to it, therefore giving him the title of the guy who invented it. I'm not sure he invented it, but he certainly did come out with it in a big way. So, other than that, he's usually using a minor blues mode, which is in E minor. Then he just loses his mind with his bar. And I mean, of all the inventiveness he's come up with, he's very stuck to what it is that he does. So you got major chords most of the time. You have blues, minor scale, almost invariably, which seems strange going against a major mode. But the thing is a blues minor scale is the third's flexible. So you have that flexibility between the thirds. Let's go to example number. What number are we on? 47? Let's go to 47 and check this out. Here's number 47. These are examples of three chords that he uses most often. Now you can move these chords. You can do a lot of things with these chords. You can play them straight out. You can move them around. You can pluck them. You can, what else does he do with them? My gosh, he moves them all over the neck. I mean, he's always moving them all over the place, but basically those types of chords. He arpeggiates them too. He's tapping them. We looked at an example of tapping earlier. But basically those are the kinds of chords he uses. Let's go to example 48 now, and I'll show you a little bit more in depth what he's doing with the usual position that he uses, the blues minor scale. Okay? I'm going to give you the blues minor scale. I'm going to play it all the way up the neck. Then I'm going to give you a riff in it, and I'm going to shift it around to 3 different positions on the neck so you can see how to move your hand with the same fingering. Here we go. This is in E minor. Now here's a riff. This is the same scale played in B. In other words, you shifted your hand position down approximately, let me see how far, 5 frets, 6 frets. 6 frets in B minor. Here we go. Here's a riff for you. Example 50 is going to illustrate the same scale, same fingering, same picking, same kind of riff in A, which is 2 frets down from the last one that we did. Okay? Let me show you the scale first. Here we go. Here's a riff. Well, that about wraps it up for this tape. Let me go over a couple of the things that we've. Let me review some of the things we've touched upon here. When he's writing songs, he's usually in a major mode. When he's playing solos, he's usually playing in a minor, a blues minor. He likes to pinch harmonics a lot when he's playing solos. Always using open stringed, pull off to open strings. Always doing that. Always doing that. Right-handed technique all the time. Bar dives. One thing we never covered, his pick slides were the best on the first record, best pick slides I've ever heard. You can't just go ripping at them because they sound like this. You have to do a pick slide correctly and it comes out like this. Usually has that slide tagged onto it. When you want to play the bar thing, when you want to do that bar dive, the best way to do it is to whip your hand up the neck, pull the string off, and then dive it. So it comes out like this. Okay. A lot of right-handed technique with Eddie. And the harmonic thing, you can tap those harmonics out wherever you want, and you find them all over the place. What else does the guy do? Oh, he's the best at his effects. I never heard anybody use a pedal board like Eddie. He's just the best. I believe he had them modified when he first had them. He had them so that they had a little bit of boost in them when he kicked them in. So the phase shifter would boost up his sound and stuff, and he wouldn't lose any signal through them. Let me give you one more example here. This is the last example we're going to get. Example 51. I'm going to show you what his latest piece of paraphernalia is for his guitar, okay? Here we go. We're going to use a drill for this. We have a cordless drill. This is kind of a cool thing. Check this out. Don't do that with a power drill, man. I put a power drill up there and it's plugged in. It makes some noise. I was scared I was going to get shocked and killed. The wireless ones are kind of cool. And I don't know, guess we can all go out and buy Makita drills to use as a piece of paraphernalia for our guitar and wear them on our belts and look cool. But it's kind of a neat thing. He's always inventing. He's like bored all the time. As soon as something's out, he's looking for something new. The perpetual inventor. I've enjoyed making this tape, and I've enjoyed the time we spent doing it, and I hope you got something out of it. Let me just try to play like Eddie for a bit and see what I'm talking about. Okay? See you later.